Nothing.
Nothing?
I dropped some change out of my pocket. I was looking for it.
Oh.
Imagine a movie where a homicidal mad scientist turns himself invisible so he can spy on high school girls in the locker room. Now picture this. It's the early 90s, Friday night. You're exhausted after a long day of junior high and your Little League baseball game, and your buddy's coming over for a sleepover. Your mom promised pizza from Little Caesars and a couple of sodas, and life is good. Well, a little while later, the pizza's mostly gone, you're hopped up on Mountain Dew, and then you hear that beautiful music, the intro to USA Up All Night, hosted by Rhonda Shear. You're excited to see what movies are playing tonight, and the first one up is The Invisible Maniac. That's right, folks. This is the Cadaver Lab, and today we're talking about The Invisible Maniac from 1990. I was reading a review for this movie on Letterboxd, and I wish I had written down the user's name, but he started his review with, "He solves a problem that has plagued mankind for decades, how to spy on chicks in the shower." I had to laugh because the 80s were rife with movies where dudes were trying to spy on girls in their locker room and showers. And at the time, this was just accepted as normal behavior. I mean, you have Porky's, To Revenge of the Nerds, Zapped, Private School, Mischief, Killer Party, The Invisible Kid, School Spirit, and now, well, I think you get it, right? I understand that this is 2026. In the 2026 world, people would use the word problematic to describe this kind of material in movies. However, I like to refer to this as comedy. Yes, you guys, movies can be fun. It's not as if I don't understand their point of view. I just pride myself on being able to eschew watching movies through one of the many lenses, quote unquote, that seem to be so popular with the fun-sucking, uber-vigilant, and virtue-chasing. However, yes, The Invisible Maniac fits under the banner of the TNA for TNA's sake. It's that kind of film, so now if you are one of those fun-sucking people, there's your disclaimer. I will make no apologies from here on out. Anyhow, let's get into it. The Invisible Maniac was released in 1990 and currently has a 4.3 score on IMDb. It was written and directed by a guy named Riff Coogan, a.k.a. Adam Rifkin. Rifkin really seems like a director that I should be more familiar with, but I've really only seen Detroit Rock City from 1999 and the Wadzilla segment of Chillerama from 2011. After having watched the extras on Vinegar Syndrome's 4K release of it, it seems like we have a lot in common as far as film interests go. This movie starred Noel Peters as Kevin Dornwinkle, a genius but an emotionally troubled scientist. It starred Shannon Wilsey as Vicky. Some of you may know, although I did not, that Shannon Wilsey is the real name of Savannah, a prolific porn star from the 80s and 90s. And she's actually, by the time she made this movie, she'd already been involved in the adult film industry. And so, yeah, she just decided, I guess, to take a little break and just show some TNA as opposed to doing the hardcore stuff. But anyways, this film also starred Stephanie Blake as Mrs. Cello, Melissa Moore as Bunny, Deborah Lamb as Betty, and Rod Schweitzer as Gordon. You know how some movies try to show the villain's tragic childhood so you understand why they turned out the way that they did? Well, this movie does that, and the lesson that it teaches us, apparently, is never shame a kid for using a telescope. Well, I mean shame as in the verb to shame. That is an understatement. This movie starts with a young boy named Kevin Dornwinkle, who's apparently a certified genius, but a psychiatrist explains to his mother that Kevin is incredibly intelligent but might also develop serious psychological problems if things go wrong. Immediately after that, Kevin is caught using a telescope to spy on the neighbor undressing. Now, a normal parent might be like, bro, don't do that. Maybe confiscate the telescope, but understand why he's a young boy and he's, curious. Well, not Kevin's mother. She goes in with a slightly different approach. She gives him a full lecture about how women are evil, disgusting temptresses, he should stay away from them, and he finishes the whole moment by telling Kevin what a piece of crap he is. So right at the beginning of the movie, we've got a socially awkward genius, sexual repression, and a telescope incident that becomes lifelong trauma. You can probably see where this is going, by the way. Cut to about 20 years later. Kevin Dornwinkle is now a grown scientist who specializes in molecular reconstruction. He's convinced that he has created a serum that can make somebody completely invisible. Naturally, he decides to demonstrate this to a room full of prestigious scientists, but unfortunately, the experiment fails spectacularly. Everyone is laughing at him, man, and these, that would just make me want to slap those nerds around. But anyways, Kevin, I guess, does a little bit of the same thing. He murders them. So he did a little bit worse than what I would have done, I guess. After this minor workplace disagreement, Kevin is declared criminally insane and sent to a psychiatric hospital instead of prison, but it doesn't take long until he escapes. By the way, that is a good thing. At least in as much as the plot of this film is concerned, because if he'd never escaped, this would have been dumb. Now he's on the run. He changes his name to Dr. Kevin Smith and somehow gets hired as a substitute physics teacher at a high school. Apparently no one at this school does background checks because their new teacher is literally a recently escaped homicidal mad scientist. The students immediately start messing with them because they're dicks. They're all in the summer school, so it tells you what kind of students they are, I guess. They plan pranks. They harass them. I mean, like high school kids tend to do. I mean, not me. I don't know anybody like that. But unfortunately for them, this is the exact same time that Kevin finally perfects his invisibility serum. So let's take inventory on the story so far. A bullied escaped madman working at a high school who has just successfully turned himself invisible. This combination, coupled with Dornwinkle's psychotic tendencies, don't bode well for, well, anyone, but especially the students and the principal at the school. The invisibility serum works, but it also messes with his mind and turns his already questionable impulses into full-blown obsession. He starts spying on his students, drifting deeper into the creepy fantasies that he's got going on. So he's doing all this, continuing to experiment on the formula, from visiting the girls in the locker room to having wildly inappropriate dreams about the girls in class. This is just his life now. Things really go off the rails when the school principal, Miss Cello, who is already having a wildly inappropriate relationship with students, tries to seduce Dornwinkle. When he refuses, she threatens to report him and have him arrested. She knows who he is. But Dornwinkle pretends to go along with her for a while and then kills her with a letter opener. And at this point, the movie basically turns into an invisible slasher film. Now completely invisible and increasingly unhinged, Dornwinkle starts killing people around the school. In not just regular ways, like increasingly bizarre ways. Some of these highlights include murdering someone with a sandwich, strangling someone with a fire hose, drowning someone in a fish tank, electrocuting a student in the shower by tossing a radio into the water, and so on and so on. And all of this is happening while nobody can actually see the killer. So people keep discovering bodies and blaming the nearest suspicious person. At one point, they even beat up the school's mute janitor because they assume he must be responsible. Eventually, one of the students, Chet, he figures out Dornwinkle is the killer and confronts him. This leads to the logical final escalation of the movie. Both of them end up invisible, fighting each other. There's a shotgun involved, a chaotic invisible struggle, and someone's head gets blown off. And when the police arrive, they assume Dornwinkle committed suicide, except for the body turns out to be Chet. Spoiler, by the way. Dornwinkle survived, and he's not done quite yet. This movie then cuts to a news broadcast reporting that the invisible killer is dead. But in the final scene, Dornwinkle, still invisible and still completely insane, shows up behind the reporter, starts laughing hysterically, and revealing that he got away by ripping the newscaster's shirt off, because of course he's going to rip the shirt off of the one, because there's not one kill in this movie where the female dying, well, there's not a kill with any of the females where she did not expose her breasts. So why not finish it off with this one? What you might notice is that as I was going over the plot, I mentioned it a little bit, but you just don't understand the amount of nudity and high school hijinks was actually going on. High school hijinks meaning messing with your teacher, being a super douchebag to the mute janitor, but also spying on women in the shower. The doc is one of the skeeziest dudes ever to be in a film, man. He just looks old, stiff, and nerdy. Peters plays the character like an intense, horny, resentful nutcase. But by the way, he was perfect for this role. So you may not believe me, or you might think I'm stretching it a little bit. But I'll tell you, The Invisible Maniac is loosely based on a novel written by one of the greatest modern-ish authors. H.G. Wells' iconic science fiction novel, The Invisible Man, was released in 1897. It's a story of a brilliant scientist who discovers a method to become invisible. However, in this story, he's not able to recover from it. He's driven mad by his condition and thus loses his moral compass and engages in a reign of terror. The book is a cautionary tale about the evils of unchecked scientific pursuits, unethical ambition, and loss of morals. To quote Sebastian Cain, by the way, played by Kevin Bacon, in Paul Verhoeven's film from 2000 called Hollow Man, it's amazing what you can do when you don't have to look at yourself in the mirror anymore. The Invisible Maniac has all the same subject matter and themes, but it's just the only difference is it's packed in a silly, fun teen romp. Like many teen or high school films from the 80s, the supposed high school students were all like in their early to mid-20s. These were the halcyon days for me, though. Being a young man in the video store era, I remember thinking that high school girls in the 80s movies were old. I of course included this. Even though this is from 90, I include this as kind of an 80s movie because, to be honest with you, the 90s didn't even really start until, late 92, early 93. In fact, I remember listening to Winger's hit 17, wondering what the problem was because 17 is old. Anyhow, this movie has cliche characters, questionable acting, flawed dialogue, and some of the horniest cinematography this side of Jess Franco. But man, was it enjoyable. Like I said earlier, if I thought about it, I can see how this can be seen as objectionable in this day and age. Obviously, right? But man, this was comedy. From the absurd set pieces and situations all the way to the actual jokes that were told. And I mentioned above that I picked up the Vinegar Syndrome 4K of this movie. Had a lot of great extras. My favorites were the interviews with some of the actors over 30 years after the original release. They all look back at it fondly, and that just warms my heart, man. None of them are under the illusion that they were making anything but a silly, ostensibly throwaway horror sex comedy. And some were surprised that even after so many years, it was still being talked about. It got a 4K release. There was also an interview with Adam Rifkin where he shares some fun anecdotes from filming, a little bit about his career, etc. He tells a story about how there was one market where they wanted to release this film that demanded it be 13 minutes longer. So basically, they shot an extra scene of a janitor having a dream of being abused by a bunch of half-naked chicks with their boobies out, including the indomitable Julie Strain in all her glory. Then that 13-minute segment was just included, and it was bad, man. In a good way. It was just some kind of a non sequitur type scene. It was just bizarre. It was just running around somebody's backyard and, getting smacked around. But, as they stuck it in, everything worked out. And that's actually an extra on this disc as well. But it's not very great quality, but still it's fun to watch. So do me a favor, grab some pizza, drink your fill of Mountain Dew, and start your Saturday night double feature with this one. I could think of about 5 or 6 movies that I would add to this evening to finish the double feature. There's so many. This was just such a great time, a fruitful time of this kind of movie. But we'll talk about that another day. Thanks for checking out this video. I really do appreciate you watching it, you guys. I love all these movies, and I love making videos about them. I hope you could tell. But do me a favor, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Make sure to visit corpsecollective.com to see what else we have going on. So until next time, I'll catch you guys later.